So you've talked, how so much of your writing is working through your problems or working through things that are happening in your own life. Is that something that you're open with and is maybe is it part of the sales process? Is it something you pull back? How does that work? Is there like a give and take, or you just try and keep that stuff all subtext as opposed to the actual, it's part of the sales process, I guess.
Oh, yes, I know exactly what you mean. I think it is part of the sales process. I hate to make it sound so hard nosed, but as the more I've probably done 8 or 9 podcasts now, and although you've asked me the most searching questions so far, so congratulations. My writing is indistinguishable from who I am. So if somebody's going to say, why did you write this book? I'm going to say, well, I wrote this book because this happened and this happened and this happened, and I needed a way to process it. I'm not sure that makes me any more interesting than the person who.
It's something that makes it interesting. The thing that when I'm as a reader, and full disclosure, I don't quote unquote write books. I guess my background in creativity is I'm a musician, so I've done plenty of albums over the years. But being able to, I guess, mirror aspects, or like look at someone and go, I know this person has been through something that I understand, and I can see myself in them as a writer, or I can see myself in the main character. Like those are the important things. Like, but once again, like a Lovecraftian horror story is a Lovecraftian horror story, but I need something to make it different, something that appeals to me personally. And the more personal I feel like you're willing to get and be with your audience, the more likely you're going to attract the people. You're going to find, as you said, find your audience. You're going to find the people that are going to gravitate to the stories because they have similar traumas, or they've maybe been in the same parts of life and understand where you're talking about, what you're going through. And it's a struggle here because so many of the people I talk to a lot of creators that, given our unique political situation here in the US, a lot of people are afraid of quote unquote being canceled, and they choose to use a pen name. Some just hide as much as they possibly can, which once again makes the marketing side of things so much more difficult. But it also, in a lot of ways, to me, it's like it helps. It doesn't help. It keeps them from being able to connect to their audience in a way that is going to draw more people in. Like they never get close enough to really feel like a part of the story, I guess. And it's everybody focuses on, oh, look at my beautiful story. Like stories are stories. There's a lot of them. Like what is the thing that hooks me and makes it meaningful to me?
Yeah, and if as a writer, I that's a shame, isn't it? Do you see that a lot? Then people, I mean, obviously, people writing under pen names, I get it, not being able to talk about what they've written.
I mean, I don't know how much you're familiar with American political situation right now, but most people, unless you're like an out and out hardcore leftist, are very afraid to talk about how they feel about most things in my country. So it's very frustrating for like me. I don't care. Like I'm who I am, and if people want to have a problem with me, then they're gonna have a problem with me. I'll take it as they come. But that's because I was raised in hard nosed Italian family, and I'll put up the Duke. Not everybody's comes from that environment, and there some people are in situations even where they've got wives and kids and people to rely on them, and that makes you know for me, I have a wife and a kid, but it would be a shame of me to not teach my daughter to stick up for herself and what she believes in. Personally, I understand I've kind of gone out of my way, me and my wife, to set up life where that's possible. Not everyone's in that situation, but yeah, it's definitely frustrating to see people who shy away from using the things that are going to make them interesting to other people.
Yes, that's a real shame.
Like the idea that you have, as a pediatric nurse, have that background there, that in and of itself is you're going to have knowledge that's going to naturally, even just the language that you're going to have is going to appeal to a particular audience because they're going to understand you differently than somebody else would. Like why was that person so concerned about that author being black and talking in a way that was black with her audience? Well, the reason being is because the harder they can get her to code that way, the easier it is to sell her and brand her to an audience. Now, that's not what she wants as a creator. That's what they're looking for. Is like, man, how can we just make this a thing?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. So, somebody said, who I don't even. Someone like Hemingway said, "Yeah, writing's easy. You just sit down and you open a vein." So, if you're writing and I suppose fiction. I know I don't know anything about writing nonfiction. You've got to have yourself in there. I don't know how else.
Well, I will also point out it's interesting that you say that, considering the first person who's ever listed the type of fiction they write as women's commercial fiction. And so this intermingling of the under well, it's about understanding the realities of the business that you're in, but understanding like there's still a way to write good and not write good, and putting you opening yourself up, putting your vein out there is how you write good, but you can't completely neglect the side of the business side of what you're trying to do, because if you do that, then you're writing to nobody. No one's ever going to get a chance to see what you poured out there, and you might as well have done it for nothing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Gosh, it's really interesting, isn't it? I'm really sorry that it's so well. Yeah, the cancel culture is rampant, isn't it?
It's getting better over here, because I think the people that have dealt with it the worst for the past couple of years, it just eventually you get too tired to fight, and so like it's I guess getting better. I feel like, and not that people are trying any less to do it, but that the ones are caring less that they are trying.
Yes.
So eventually it's like, whatever, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. I have to live my life. You can't, no, the culture can't walk on eggshells forever. That's not tenable.
Well, that's what I'd hoped. I was hoping it would just come full circle, you know.
Well, and I know in the 90s we had the whole political correctness thing first popped up in, like, the early 90s. They had that movie Piece of You about it, and it kind of went through a cycle there too. So you hope everything goes in cycles, but you know in the meantime, we have, you're dealing with people that have to deal with the realities of that, unfortunately. And
Yeah. Oh, well, what do you say to those creators? Do you say, do you encourage them to?
I can't force them. If you're really afraid of it, like, I would say you're a creator, then come up with. For me, I'm a person who suffers from social anxiety, so being a frontman in a band has always been, I'll just say, a difficult thing. But what you eventually realize, because performing's what you want to do, you have to find a way to make it work. So for me, it was always, there's me, and then there's me on stage, and me on stage is, it's not me, it's maybe an elevated version of me, or a different, it's somebody that I can compartmentalize that world onto. And so as an author, I'm like, if you don't really want people, like, make somebody up, make up the guy who's writing these stories, like, it can be a fictitious person. Like, Stephen King had Richard Bachman for years, and that was his way of, like, writing the more, I guess, hardcore stories, like with more violence than normal. So it's like, there's any way you can do this. And like, technically that gives you another creative outlet. I had one author on my show that, like, one of the big things I'll talk about is, like, email marketing involved with book, like, writing, and all of his emails he does as one of the characters in his books. Like, he sends all of his emails as the character writing to his audience.
Oh, brilliant! That is brilliant.
And it's like, so you get even more of a creative outlet, and it's a way to engage your characters in a different level. So it's like, there's ways you can, like, if you don't want to be invisible, you can do it. It's just, you have to be creative and find your way to do it. The key is you have to still find that way to connect. It still has to be honest.
I just got back a list of. Was developing an email list. I didn't have one basically, and I've just got back a list, and that is such a good idea. So I've got to finally. I'm starting a newsletter, but that's such a good idea that I might completely steal that idea and just write.
He's not the only one. It's fairly common. So, you're not stealing anything. You're just, working within the confines of what you have. But it's another way to communicate with people. And
Yeah, and then they also get instead of just getting a round robin, they get a nice, free little story from one of the characters. Yeah.
exactly, and that's one of the things I always like about it. It's like, you have, like, micro stories, things like that. Like, it's these little micro ideas. You could have your character talk about something would never make sense to put into a book, but, like, it gives them a broader, rounder, more engaged experience with this character. Things like that.
One of the free book promotion sites. So I I give the book away. I do my Amazon 5 days every 90 days. And one of the sites, I think it's, I'm sorry, I can't remember. I might remember in a minute. They have a reader magnet, so you can put a little story or a snippet or a first chapter or something that those readers get for free when they. And I just think, oh, that really makes a difference, doesn't it? When you just get a little something extra, you kind of got to give it away to keep it, kind of thing.
Well, and it's a thing that everybody in the creative arts struggles with is we're in a world where everyone can see everything. And so finding anything that draws enough attention and can, get people interested in the just endless supply of content out there. You know, part of the reason I got into doing this whole thing was because I was involved in bands, and there's so many bands out there releasing material. And how do you get anyone to listen to you, stop long enough to listen to your band or care about you? And so you learn how marketing works and how you get out there and you spread the word and you do all that.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
Where can I send people to sign up for your email list? Presumably your website.
It's hilarious. I have a website and I have a landing page and all that stuff, and it's literally hannaparry.com, all one word.
Good. Make it simple. Don't make them fight for it. Make it as easy to get to you as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's where they can go. But I feel like I'm sleuthing throughout the whole internet at the moment. Just, marketing's huge, isn't it? It's a massive, massive learning curve. But as you said, to find the people I want to find, I have to do it. It's not a natural space for me. I'm a massive introvert as well. But funnily enough, talking about looking for connection, an introvert looking for connection is probably why I do these podcasts. So even though I know I don't like going to parties, I do quite like having a chat one-to-one about writing.
Very, very different experience. My favorite quote, I had a guest on here, and his quote was, "I became a writer so I didn't have to talk to people." And it's like, well, that only goes so far. You're kind of putting a cap on yourself there, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I've got friends who post. They're so good. They post to Instagram every 20 seconds and stuff. And
Well, it's funny because while he says he's one of the best people I know about posting, and he understands the game very well. It's one of those things you can understand like why you got to listen, but realize the commercial reality of it is very different. It's like you don't want to do the legwork, don't want to meet people. It's going to limit what you can do. But it doesn't have to be like pulling teeth because I love doing this. I love talking to people, and the beauty of it is people love listening to people talk to other people. So get out there, you talk to people, and eventually more people listen. It's going to end up somewhere. Like something's going to hook somebody, and you're going to bring people in.
yeah, exactly. And I'm really grateful. I might have sort of found a niche that I can actually, do and enjoy doing. I think it's the enjoyment of it, isn't it?
Well, right on. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Hanna. It was a great conversation. I don't know if it was a conversation I expected to have. I don't know if it was a conversation you expected to have, but hopefully everybody learned something from it.
Well, at least I'm not traditionally published like I thought I was. But I really, really enjoyed it. Thanks ever so much, Nikki.